Anybody else? Alright, Genesis.
You're taking score Genesis.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
We're playing after them. So we gotta be super quick. Alright, Ethan, who shot Abraham Lincoln?
Who what?
John Wilkes Booth.
Oh, I'm like, who?
Okay. Yeah, I already started because Jamie wasn't.
Them.
Did you shuffle them?
Us.
I already shuffled.
Ow.
Positive 100.
Alright, so us. Okay, I'm gonna put that because restart doesn't do anything.
No.
Put it back
Does?
there.
Sure does.
Yeah, it's 25.
For us?
Alright.
Is it my turn?
Is it
Wait,
Ethan? Are you taking Genesis or is Genesis on the other team?
Other team.
She's on our team.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Genesis, you're with Quentin and Chris. Alright, Chris's team. Alright, Chris. Who became president whenever Abraham Lincoln died?
Johnson.
Good job, Andrew Johnson.
Us.
Negative 25.
Okay, what was the first one?
So I'm a failure.
Alright, second. What amendment made slavery illegal everywhere in the United States and all the jurisdictions? Good job.
Yeah.
Negative 25. I'm sorry. Alright,
This is what?
so what is the, name one of the, okay, you've only list one, so what is the warship that the British made for the South?
My
So,
turn.
what?
Okay.
What?
The CSS Alabama.
CSS Alabama?
Us.
Negative 100.
Quentin!
Alright,
How did
back
you
to
get
front. Alright, who was, or what was the Union warship that stopped the British steamer, I'm sorry, I keep wording this wrong. What is the British steamer that was stopped by
Trent.
the Union? Cannot get that sentence right. Swap, you have to swap.
We were gonna have to swap anyway, so.
Yeah.
That's
Alright,
fine.
What do you guys have?
Positive 25.
Negative 150.
alright, Genesis turn.
Negative
So,
You got two negative 25?
did France ever end up allying with the South?
Yeah.
They did?
No.
Nope, they did not. Austin. Cool. Alright, did Great Britain ever end up allying themselves to the South? Ethan's turn.
What?
Okay, put your attention. Did England ever ally themselves with the South?
No.
Nope, did not. Go ahead and just get rid of both of them.
Yeah.
I'm reverse.
You see, you could just.
Alright, I believe it is.
I said
Chris's
positive
turn.
150.
Nope, he
No,
gave
it's-
it to
we
y'all.
have-
Sign reverse for us, which means we have negative 35.
We're still one.
Alright, who was the emperor, leader, king of France that wanted to ally with the South but was waiting just for England to say so? Is that really
I know, Chris.
No.
Excuse
Napoleon
me?
the third.
Define the third.
Us.
Plus 25.
Woo!
Alright.
Y'all don't understand how
Wait,
smart
I don't know how
am.
to do math.
Pay attention.
Alright,
Thank
what is
you.
the name for the fiat money that the North and South use, but mainly in the North?
I haven't answered the question.
You skipped it every time.
I've only answered
No,
one
it's France.
question.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
our second question.
There's 3 people. Let's say it hasn't got around to you yet. Greenback, I'll show them.
Yeah.
Nathan.
Oh, so negative 70 for a second.
Alright,
Negative 70.
let's see. What do you call the system whenever the government would tell you just to go fight?
It's my turn.
Draft.
Draft system. A little bit different this time period, but basically the same.
Team members.
Them. Who do you trust more?
Neither one of you.
She does do more.
Technically, I do just Quentin more.
Choose who you want. Your team or someone else.
She dressed by more.
Negative 50.
Just kidding. Them.
Nope, too late. Alright. Alright, so
Wow.
who surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse? Breckham's turn.
I trust no
Who
one.
surrendered at Appomattox
Is
Courthouse?
there more than one person?
I mean, it's all of the troops, but who was the general that surrendered?
I was
If I
waiting
get
for
wrong,
her to
it'd be
say
this
so.
turn, right?
Yeah.
Lee.
Robert E. Lee?
My fingers getting cold.
Plus 25.
Ooh,
Alright,
yeah.
what is
Us.
the full date for Lee's surrender?
Strictly my turn, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
April 9th, 1865.
Good job.
Us.
Plus 50. Alright, who was known
Still
for
can't
his
do
march to the sea? Gotta be Ethan's turn.
William Tecumseh Sherman.
Good job.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on, wait, hold on, what's his name?
Sherman.
Sure.
Swap, you gotta swap back.
Swap what?
Points back.
What's your point?
100.
Positive?
Negative 125.
Negative
You
20.
tell me you guys only got 25 points.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty much.
Fine.
Alright, I believe it's Chris's turn, cause I skipped by it. Alright, who was supposed to stop Sherman, but he was unable to?
Let's just start with
H.
Hood.
That is correct, John D. Hood.
He was supposed to stop
He was-
Sherman.
Us.
Yeah, he was supposed to stop him
Us.
when Sherman's marched to the sea, but he couldn't, he wasn't able to. Plus 25.
That's 50.
I'm sorry, plus 50,
Let's go.
plus 50.
Okay. Okay,
Negative 75.
thank you.
Alright, who is
Put
known
your
as the
glasses
Rock
on.
of Chickamauga?
I know it.
Thomas.
Good job,
There you go,
George
yeah.
Thomas.
My book is open.
Just
Mine's 2.
it might be a negative, but just
It's
keep saying
negative
us.
10.
What?
Negative 10 for us.
Keep saying
Alright,
us now.
what is the most decisive battle of the war? It's gotta be Quentin's turn now.
Please start with Battle of what?
Okay, G.
Battle of most decisive.
Battle of Gettysburg.
Battle of Gettysburg,
I
Us.
can read that in that
plus
section.
10.
2.
Alright, what is the year for the Emancipation Proclamation?
Come on, Tommy.
1863.
1863.
Us.
Is it negative 65?
Negative 50. Okay, we'll do just 2 more apiece,
Yeah.
and then I gotta
For
start.
them?
2 more for your team, 2 more for this team. Alright, so,
It's my turn.
what,
That's my turn.
Chances
didn't Quentin
are.
just go? Yes,
Yeah.
Chances.
Hey,
Alright,
Ethan just went, didn't he? So it's my turn after Ethan.
there's
They only
3 and
have
then there's 2.
people.
So it's gonna shift
It's
around.
not gonna be the same.
Build
Alright.
different.
What is the single bloodiest day in the Civil War?
Let's start with
A. It's the Battle of
Antietam.
Antietam.
Just say yes.
Us.
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 Them.
Sign reverse, you know,
I
so
know.
positive or negative, whatever it is. Alright, what battle was the
Told you
South's
once.
costliest victory?
Hey!
What does it start with?
Look better.
And it starts with a C.
I know.
See.
I know.
You know.
Chickawawa. I don't know how to say it.
Chickamauga?
Yeah.
Nope.
Bruh.
I was just saying
Yeah,
something
Chancellorsville.
myself.
Us.
Wait, what
Negative
was it?
25.
Chancellorsville?
Wait, what was the question?
Chancellorsville, South's costliest victory.
Is that 'cause that dude died?
And what's
That,
that
that's gonna
dude?
be my next question. Who is that dude that died at the Battle of Chancellorsville?
Oh, I'm about to say it.
His last name begins with a J. Sorry,
I'm about to
it
say
said
it.
T. J.
Gotcha.
Mm.
No reason.
Oh my
Really?
Yes.
It's neither.
Dude, this is Jackson.
Good job. Do you know his first name?
Stonewall.
Good job. Shalon
Thomas.
Jackson or Thomas Jackson.
I'll never call him Thomas.
Us.
Restart. That might be helpful for y'all actually.
It's not.
I'm sorry.
It's not.
Alright,
Because
one
they're
more
in
piece.
positive.
They're a negative.
We're positive.
We're positive.
They're in positive. We have 0.
That's
They have
two
like
questions
positive
for each.
5,000.
Is it really? I thought I had one more for each person. We'll do one right now. Alright, so what was the battle where they took control of Corinth? And this is whenever they captured Western Tennessee. Starts with an S.
Starts with an S.
Starts with an S.
They captured where?
They captured the junction at Corinth. But this is whenever they
Rhymes
captured
with?
Tennessee.
I know.
Milo.
Battle of Shiloh.
Good job.
Battle for Stuart Little.
Milo's eliminated with it.
It's still positive 100 in there.
You go best? Negative 10.
It's
Alright,
okay.
last one for
It's
y'all.
okay,
then.
break it.
No.
See, Chris, you just go. I thought you just went. Alright, we'll let you go. Alright. Okay. Alright, who captured Mobile Bay?
Let's start with.
Last name begins with an F, not French.
I know.
Frog. I want to say frog.
Is what next?
Nope, that's
It's,
Is what next?
this is the last question.
Am
Very
I-
last.
Is what next?
Am I the help?
Quentin's the help.
Quentin, do you know it?
Can I forego my help?
No,
Oh.
it has to just
Can
be-
I say what it rhymes
It's
with?
not fair. No,
Say
it's
it.
not fair.
No,
No,
no.
but it's not fair because they only have 2 people, so it's not fair for a third person to help.
Say it starts with
Fragua.
You're going with
Oh
Fregois.
my gosh. I mean, I'm sorry.
Fuego.
I'm sorry.
What? You're going with Frago?
Oh my
Fuego.
word.
Fuego.
No!
You
No!
get a chance to redeem. And I'm sorry.
Say the question again.
What?
Say the question again.
Mobile Bay. Who captured it? First with F. I'm sorry, Genesis. It's gotta be luck.
Even if I'm wrong, even if I'm wrong, I'm gonna say it.
Oh my god.
Couple seconds.
Oh my
Quentin.
word.
3, 2, 1.
That's it.
Faymont.
No, you can't.
What?
Faymont.
No!
No. Okay, you've already guessed
Us?
though.
That's it.
Okay.
No.
No. Okay, just for now. Just because you've already guessed
It's our
though, so it's
turn.
not fair to keep
It's
guessing.
like Frag.
It's our turn?
Right? No.
Okay, say at the front.
It's fair.
Very good.
You guys-
Alright, you or somebody else. I have no idea if this is gonna make or break it at this point.
It's not. No, a piece of paper, pen and pencil.
What the?
Plus 10.
Everything, man.
Alright, two
We
pieces of paper.
win.
Two pieces of paper.
Obviously.
How many points did your teams have?
80.
55.
Okay,
Oh,
Josh.
question is-
10.
55.
Alright,
Can I read these real fast? 1 second.
5 seconds.
I don't have paper.
3,
That's unfortunate.
5.
Maybe you should have let us win.
Alright, fine.
Yeah, like that was possible.
By the way, hurry, there you go, piece of paper.
I'm not surprised.
Today is December 20th.
December 9th, I forgot to change the date.
I have graph
Can I
paper.
change it?
You may change it in minutes. You can use graph paper as a cover sheet.
I
I
think
can't read grade
Wrong
graph.
card.
We need to test him.
10.
I don't like it.
Coronavirus.
I got tested.
Alright,
It said
we
it
gotta
was
keep
negative.
going. Okay, Brecken has been cleared.
I don't know if it was one of the rapid tests. It
Which
might be
quiz?
wrong.
Which quiz is
Oh,
this?
those don't
This is,
count,
I
bro.
believe, 32, if I remember correctly.
The entrance only covered one a month. Not one a month. One rapid test and one big test.
I don't want to
You
do
got the big kids.
Alright,
Actually, 10
we gotta keep going.
Uh,
Number 1. Alright. Who surrendered? Who at Appomattox Courthouse? Who surrendered? Appomattox Courthouse.
Let's put the whole name.
First and last.
We have to put first.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. Number 2. What is the full date? You should know this by this point. For the end of the Civil War, for this person surrenders. Basically the end. What is the full date for the end of the Civil War?
Ooh.
technically.
Ooh.
Technically, some of the fighting still kept going, but since he was the important person who surrendered, that's what we care about.
What quiz is this?
This is, I believe, 32. I'll fix it later if it's not. Number 3. What do you call the fiat money that the North used in particular? The South used it to a certain extent, but in particular, the North used
Yes,
it.
they did use it.
Number 4. Who was the leader of France that wanted to come and join the Confederacy? He was just waiting for Great Britain to see if Great Britain would do it as well.
Do we have to put his title?
No. You don't have to put title, you just give his name. But make sure that if there's multiple versions of this person's name, that you give the proper Roman numeral after it as well.
Oh, okay, that just helped me.
No, right. I can't help. But just saying that you want to make sure you want to write the full thing. You don't have to give like the title of like king or emperor though. So just write the name. Number 5. What is the name for the British streamer? I can't talk. British steamer that was stopped by the Union, and it almost caused a war between Great Britain and the Union.
Basically the South and Great Britain.
No, because it was
It would
the
have been them two, but then the South would have.
yeah, it would have been the Confederacy and Great Britain against the North if this had
And they
happened.
most likely would.
Or possibly. Again, we're not sure. Alright, what is the name for the warship that the British built for the South? What is the name for the warship that was built for the South? You can leave off CSS, that's fine.
Too late.
But if you want to write it, you decide.
It sounds better.
It does.
I don't even know what that
Sweet.
means.
I almost did the answer.
Number 7. What amendment? Write a number. What amendment abolished slavery permanently in the United States and all the jurisdictions?
Do we
What?
have to write out the number?
You may write numerically the number. That's just fine.
Say again?
What is the amendment that permanently abolished slavery from the United States
Do we
and
have to
all
write
there?
amendment?
You can leave off amendment because I said what amendment.
I already wrote it.
Alright, what was, let's see, what was the party that supported Abraham Lincoln for his re-election? Or what was his name for his party? Because they're all Republicans. What was the name for the temporary party? Went over this yesterday more, and I told you to study, so should have watched the video. Sorry.
I
Didn't
just
study.
read it.
You did, hopefully. So what was the party that temporarily took the name, because most of them were Republicans anyway? Number 9. Who was Lincoln's vice president, and then he becomes important in a couple of years, but who was Lincoln's vice president? Number 10. Who shot Abraham Lincoln?
I wonder who.
Me.
Does this? Imagine I get this wrong.
That's really sad. Alright, anyone need anything repeated?
Bonus.
The bonus, yeah.
We don't want a bonus.
I told you yesterday you should study, and I gave you a bunch of time today, like 15 minutes to
And
study.
she kinda helped us on number 4 too.
But Christmas is coming
What was
up and
number
this is
four?
our gift.
Yeah, that's our Christmas gift.
I don't know, it might be more for Friday.
Yeah,
might be
I really
a-
don't need a bonus, 'cause I think I got
I don't
it
either.
already.
Alright, anyone need more time though? Anyone
No.
need more time? Alright, go ahead and hand it.
What's number 8?
No, we can't say because Jamie might not have taken the equation.
What's
Yeah,
the
stop
solvent?
cheating. What's number 8?
No.
Just
wait.
I'm gonna get out the book and I'm gonna.
I know, wait. What was number 8 so I can just look up the answer myself?
No, look it up later, just remember the question
The-
up,
the
because again, I
Republican
don't know if Jamie's taking it, and so we can't talk about it right now.
Yeah, I remember.
Alright, so we left off yesterday talking about Christianity and the Civil War. Really quick, your book's just wrapping it up really fast for it. So, your book talks about D.L. Moody. What is D.L. Moody's full name? Okay, Genesis. That was very exciting.
I got the question right.
I'm happy for you. Don't say it though. Okay. What is
uh,
D.L. Moody's real name?
Dwight L. Moody.
Good job. Way to find it. Alright, so
I
Christian
saw it on
effects.
this page.
Yeah, no, it's at the top of the page.
No, you're not.
It's
It's not even on that page. See?
Aw, good job then, remembering.
Thank
you.
you.
Alright, so we're on page
Where are we
28. Alright, so Christian effects during the war. So, D.L. Moody, make a note for him that they were ministering to the soldiers north and south. Why is it important that they minister to north and south during the Civil War? Chris?
Because the Southerners need Jesus too.
Alright, and then also, what happens if you had a southern or northern soldier die during the Civil War?
They get buried.
Yeah, and then also, what happens to their soul? Quentin?
Gets burned.
Only God knows.
Yeah, so it's one of those, they just want to make sure that everybody,
Need a full
basic, it is a good answer. It is the idea, they want to make sure that everyone at least knew how to get saved so that way, because these are soldiers, they knew that death was probably going to happen. Now again, you could die at any moment of a heart attack, but it's one of those, okay, it's more probable that you'll die right now with the war, so that's one of the reasons why they're focused on it. Oh, before I forget, what is due next Tuesday?
But write about it, whichever one you choose, whether it be chapter 16 or 17.
Wait for you. Alright,
Wait.
so make a
Why
note for
is
that
that
one.
just
The
a
write about it is due next Tuesday. Remember, the rough draft was due yesterday, so the final draft is
Alright.
due next Tuesday.
Yeah, we're
Watch
just
the
going to
videos if you need help on it. Alright, do you have a question about that too as well?
200 to 300 words.
Do I have to turn it in tomorrow?
Oh, so this is the rough draft. If you want to show it to me, you can. We were basically more doing like a work study, like in class on it. I didn't actually go through and actually like grade it or anything because you're in 11th grade. You just have to figure it out yourself. But if you need help, go watch the video. Cause they explain it in the video, and then you can come at me if you still need help. You got a few questions? Awesome. Alright, so that's the reason why people were concerned about the soldiers and trying to help them out for it. Alright, the American Bible Society, it passed over 900,000 copies of the Bible. Again, just trying to get it to the soldiers because they were worried about them. So 900,000 copies of the Bible. Your book points out the Sanitary Commission was also kind of started. This is the forerunner to the American Red Cross. Why was the Sanitary Commission getting started during this time period? Chris?
What?
Why was the Sanitary Commission getting started?
The war.
Yeah, because of what?
Infection.
Yeah, and disease. But you're on the right page with me, so 228. Alright, so Sanitary Commission. So again, now who was the leader that was kind of she becomes
Claire Barton.
yeah, the Claire Barton. She's not on this page. Don't know her yet for quiz and test, but she's gonna come on a later chapter. So Claire Barton. So godly leaders. Your book points out that both in the North and the South, they both valued the Bible and they encouraged their troops to go to church as much as they could. It is war, but they understood okay that it is important to try to stay close to God because some of you might be dying. Chaplains in the war. All right, what is a chaplain? Your book has not officially talked about
There's a
this.
chaplain in my church. He's like the preacher for the army dudes.
Yep, so he's basically a traveling preacher that stays with the troops to try and minister to them. It's actually interesting. Your book points out the North recognized that chaplains were particularly important to help out, and any chaplain that they caught, they would release back to the South because they said they said we're not going to keep him at a prisoner of war camp. He needs to go back home and minister. So any chaplain that they caught, because it was supposed to be like a man of God, and he's ministering, he's not fighting. They said you can go back home, and you can go back and keep ministering to people and help them out as best you can for it. So again, just make a note of them. To make a note, the major chaplain was John William Jones on page 229. Make a note of him, mark him as well for it. Alright, revivals in camp. Your book points out actually there were several kind of miniature revivals that happened in the North and the South. Because again, people realized I may die, and so because of that, they were getting saved and trying to make sure are they living as best they can before they go on into eternity. Alright, let's read about In God We Trust, bottom of the page really quick. Let's read first. Alright, Genesis.
It was during the Civil War that the motto "In God We Trust" first appeared on United States coins. The man most directly responsible for the adoption of this motto was Secretary of the Treasury Salmon P. Chase. Early in Chase's tenure as Secretary of the Treasury, a clergyman had written to him suggesting that American coins ought to bear a model demonstrating the nation's dependence on God. In response to the suggestion, Secretary Chase wrote, "No nation can be strong except in the strength of God, or safe except his will defense. The trust of our people in God should be declared on our national coins."
You can finish it up.
Okay. Although the director of the Mint composed several models, Chase suggested in God we trust. In April 1864, an act was passed authorizing the issuing of 2-cent piece bearing the motto. Later, the coins were issued bearing the words "In God we trust."
Your adoption made up, so some of you Chase made it up for him in God we trust. Alright, last page. Almost done with the section. Ready to get out of this chapter. Alright, your book points out, even after the war, a lot of the generals wanted to help out with furthering education for some people, then also gospel influence as well. So, many generals in both the North and South continued to practice their faith in their civilian lives. Oliver Howard, make a note for him that he founded the Howard Theological Seminary for African Americans. So make a note for him, because he's partly trying to help out with African Americans in particular to get further education in the Bible. So again, make a note for that for him. So Oliver Howard, make it for him. Samuel Chaplin Armstrong, he founded Hampton University. This was to provide a good education for the recently freed slaves, and in particular, Booker T. Washington went to that school and then later on taught at the school. So Samuel Chapman Armstrong, he founded Hampton University. So make a note for him. And in a lot of cases, right after the Civil War, there were separate schools for the freedmen and the white Southerners, partly because the African Americans or the freedmen at the time period had never had any type of education, so they're trying to hurry up and catch them up. And then also there were some unwise decisions made right after the Civil War, to where segregation was starting right after the Civil War as well, which is also really sad and really unfortunate. Alright, so to make note of William Nelson Pendleton, he was ordained minister and continued to serve in his church even after the war. So he went back to being a preacher once the Civil War was over. So your book is pointing out that even though the Civil War temporarily tore our country apart, a lot of people were trying to put it back together as quickly as possible and trying to mend the war and to go back and realize we're all Americans now again. We're not trying to separate, so we need to hurry up and get put back together. Alright, anyone have any questions about that before we move on into the next chapter? Alright, moving on. Hallelujah. I'm tired of being stuck in chapter 16. Alright, chapter 17, Reconstruction. Your book puts it nicely that the Reconstruction era was a challenging time for the country. It's really depressing. This is probably one of my least favorite periods of history. I would not want to live or grow up in this period of history. Everybody is angry at everybody else, and everyone is being petty to everybody else. It's sad and it's horrible. But again, this is an area right after the Civil War, because the North had fought against the South, and so because of that, there's no really, I guess, prize to be won, because remember, whenever we fought against Great Britain, or in the War of 1812, or in the War for Independence, or whenever we fought against Mexico or Spain, we always won something. Maybe territory, maybe independence, but we always won something. In this war, did we win really anything? Ethan? No, it was basically, we lost a ton of people, and our country is still just back together. There was nothing really gained. Now, the African Americans or the slaves were freed, and so that was good, but that was basically the only thing. And so there was a lot of just angry people, grieving people. The South in particular is torn up. The South economically is shocked. They have had a lot of problems with the war taking place in their territory. Who was known for his march to the sea, where he literally just destroyed huge sections of the South as he went across? Genesis? Sherman. So because of the South is literally devastated. The South is going to take a long time just to get put back in order. Their governments of the states are also destroyed, because remember, if you had a state government, what were they probably also as well? Brecken. Alright, think of it this way. If it was the idea of a compact with the states, with the idea of each little separate nation, that the government leaders of each state were probably also the what? You okay, Chris?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, anyone think they know?
President.
Not quite. They were also the military leaders as well of the South. So a lot of them went off and fought in the war, or they died. And so because of that, their governments are in shambles, and for their states as well. So the governments collapsed. They lost their slaves to work the plantations. The economies collapsed. Their Confederate money is no longer worth anything. Their farms have been destroyed in some cases. So there's a lot of problems in the South in particular. So your book's putting it nicely with the idea of it's a challenging time. No, it was horrible for both sides in particular for it. Alright, so Your book points out the timeline for it. This lasts about 20 years, loosely, give or take. We're going to talk about what officially ends it later on for it. But this whole era is known as the Reconstruction era. Alright, who wants to read the quote by Rutherford B. Hayes? We're going to talk about why your book has his quote at the top of the page in a little bit later on. Who wants to read it? Alright, Justice.
I call upon the senators, representatives, judges, fellow citizens, here and everywhere to unite with me in the earnest effort to secure to our country the blessings not only of material prosperity, but of justice, peace, and union depending not upon the constraint of force, but upon the love and devotion of the free people.
Good job. Alright, anyone know why does your book have Rutherford B. Hayes quote on the top of the page?
Because he was president.
He is going to be a future president. Does anyone know why he imported the idea of Reconstruction? Alright, you will find out then. So he just talked about, he marks the end of Reconstruction, and we'll talk about the reasons why for it. But he's saying, okay, at this period, the country's officially put back together. And so that's why they have his quote at the top of the page. Talking about, okay, it's not a union of force. We're not forcing you to be here. It's because everyone wants to be here at this point. Alright, so your book points out the South in particular faces serious obstacles. The state governments are collapsed, the economy has collapsed, the currency is void, the plantations, railroads, and even cities are destroyed. The South is in shambles, and the South needs help in particular for it. Alright, the freedmen were also having trouble as well. Now keep in mind, when I say freedmen, what do I mean? I think I've talked about this previously, so don't raise your hand. What does freedmen mean? Alright, Chris? Yeah, they're the freed slaves. So they call them freedmen. As a side note, it's not free men. Freemen refers to people who were not slaves at the start of the Civil War. There were some African Americans that really weren't slaves. They weren't common, but they weren't slaves in the South or they weren't slaves in the North. And so because of that, they took the name freedmen. So there's freedmen and freemen. That becomes distinctual difference because sometimes after the Civil War, the African Americans that were freed, they didn't have a last name or they didn't know their last name, and so because of that, they took the last name freedmen to symbolize that, hey, we are now freed. And so that helps out with genealogies. So make a note, we call them the freedmen, so make a note for it, make a note for them. Now they were free, but would all of their troubles be solved if they were all of a sudden just given freedom? No. Your book points out as well, they had no education, no trade, no resources, no property. And so because of that, they basically just got kicked off. And that was it. And so a lot of the freedmen said, we don't know what to do. We don't have any money. We don't have a place to live. I don't know any trade or any skills. I don't know what to do. So a lot of them went back to their former masters and became servants again because they didn't know what else to do when they have to get money to feed their family. And so a lot of them had to just basically do something in the moment. Now, they weren't quite sure what to do long term, but they understood, okay, I have to feed my family right now. So I don't know what to do. There's nothing else open for me at the time. So people realized they have to do something to fix this. They just weren't quite sure right here, right at the moment for it. Your book points out that all Southerners, white Southerners, and the black Southerners, both groups were in trouble after the Civil War just because of all the hardships for it. Alright, Lincoln's Reconstruction. So your book points out that there were two important questions asked right at the end of the Civil War. Number one, had the Southern states actually seceded from the Union? Had they actually left? And did the Reconstruction constitutionally fall underneath the jurisdiction of the President or Congress? If they had actually pulled out of the Union and become a separate country, it would be Congress's job to approve their constitutions to come back into the Union. If they didn't actually leave the Union, then the President could just pardon them and let them come back in cleanly because he could treat it like they were underneath a rebellion, and the President can deal with it that way. That's why Lincoln said from the very beginning, you did not actually secede, you were just in rebellion, because Lincoln knew, I can just pardon you and you can come back in cleanly. Lincoln did not want Congress to have the power to say what the states have to do to come back into the Union. He understood that that's not a good idea because Congress is made up of what, Ethan?
Ton of people.
Alright, now, since the South has seceded from the Union, what senators and House of Representatives are only left?
Northerners.
The Northerners. So he was saying this is not a good idea for the winning side to decide what happens to the losing side. That is not a good way to put your country back together. Not doing that. So Abraham Lincoln was saying, nope, I decided, and I'm going to be very lenient to let them come back in as quickly and as smoothly as possible. Congress, the decides almost immediately that they're gonna fight Abraham Lincoln every step of the way, partly because Congress wanted power, and partly they felt like that it was constitutionally their job. So there was a debate in the time period over who actually had the power, Abraham Lincoln or Congress, and some people really did feel like that Abraham Lincoln was being tyrannical by taking it. But Abraham Lincoln understood, you guys don't need it. You guys are going to make it too hard for the South. You guys need to be more lenient. And Abraham Lincoln understood that, okay, I understand you're grieving, but at the same time, you need to let them come back in. These are basically these are your countrymen. These are your brothers and your sisters and your cousins. You need to let them back into the country as quickly as possible. So, your book points out Abraham Lincoln, he issued a proclamation giving out a general idea over what he wanted to do for the Reconstruction. He basically said, I will pardon everybody except for the civil and military leaders of the Confederacy, except for the leaders. Everybody else is pardoned, all of the South. You are all forgiven for this. And he also said that the proclamation stipulated that a new government can be formed whenever a number of voters equal just 10% of the registered voters in 1860 had taken a loyalty oath. Now, keep in mind, the loyalty oath was just swearing loyalty to the Union. Since they had tried to leave, Lincoln felt like, okay, you need to at least swear, or you will be loyal again, back to the Union. But that's only 10%. Now, keep in mind, Congress wanted to make it over half. Why is it not good to make it over half of the white Southerners to swear a loyalty oath to come back into the Union? Why do you think that is? Brecken. Okay, now keep in mind, did the white Southerners, did they even want to be part of the Union? No, they just had a whole war to fight to say, we don't want to be part of the Union. So, Lincoln understood, okay, we need to have some of them, understand we have to come back into the Union. Let's come, Lincoln only made it just 10%. Because he's saying, once you get enough of you on board, the rest of you should follow along in line with it. But he understood, okay, making you swear a loyalty oath was just making you basically just rub it in your face or rub salt in the wound, is what he understood. Okay, we need to move on to this. Just 10%, which 10% of the voting population swears in. Okay, yes, you can set up a new state government and you can hurry up and move on. Several states realized this was a very lenient plan and they liked it. So Louisiana, Arkansas, and Tennessee snapped this up really quick and decided we're gonna hurry up and come back in. We're gonna hurry up and join up again from this. So make a note for that. And with the 10% plan, he's saying just 10% of the registered voters in 1860 have to take a loyalty oath, but not everyone, because Lincoln understood that would be too hard and that would be seen as like thrown in the face of the South. And so he understood that would cause hardship and it would cause grievous and almost hate for it, just because it seems hateful to do that. Alright, Congress opposition, almost immediately Congress said, nope, we want to be in charge of it. So you have the conservative Republicans and then there's the radical group. So make a note for them. So because you have Republicans kind of split again into two sections, you have the regular Republicans, but then you have the radical group. Make a note for the radicals. They basically said, no, it's our job to do it. We feel like it's constitutional, our job. And in some cases, they were just being hateful blatantly into the South. Make a note for them. What?
It's crazy how little Americans change.
For what?
Yeah, so that's standard.
What's it?
In that instance.
Like
what do they call it? The far leftists, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, keep in mind, radical just means like extremist, so that's just what the term means. They gave it to them because they feel like it's their constitutional power.
Not everyone that's in Congress is.
A lot of cases, people want to protect their own power, which again is sad. They should be more focused on what's the good of the country, but it definitely seems that people are more focused on just hanging on to power, which is what a lot of the radicals were focused on in this time period. Now, they felt like constitutionally it's their job, and they said, nope, we should decide. They felt like the South had succeeded and left, so they said, nope, we get to determine what states come in. They left, so we get to determine what happens to allow them to come back into it. So they also thought that Abraham Lincoln's plan was too lenient. They wanted to be stricter to the South, which again, they're grieving, because keep in mind, friends and family have died. So it is one of those, okay, I understand it, like, that's rough, but I understand one reason why they're so upset. Okay.
If you were in the government, were you exempt from being drafted for work?
If what?
If you were in the government.
I don't believe so. I mean, I have not moved into that, but I don't believe just being like a member of the government, I don't think you get out of it. you still like, it's still, if you fall within that age requirement, I think you also have to go. Alright, so, made up for Congress, they passed the Wade-Davis bill. This bill, if it had been adopted, Congress, not the president, would control Reconstruction. Basically, Congress is trying to pass a law saying, hey, Reconstruction is our job. Just going ahead and just making it a requirement now, saying, I don't care what the president says. We're doing it, we're gonna take over it. And so, legally, that's what you're supposed to do, to like, make a law, is to pass a bill like this. So, then, now, look what the plan required. It required a majority of the white males in the succeeded states to take a loyalty oath before the new state could be organized. It passed both houses of Congress, but in order for a bill to become a law, what else has to happen? Anyone know? You haven't quite talked about it. What?
Congress.
Both of them passed it, Senate and the House.
The Congress, not, the judicial branch,
Nope,
House of Representatives.
Legislative.
nope, because Congress is part legislative. We'll watch the video over
Executive.
tomorrow. I forgot we haven't watched it yet.
What video?
How a bill becomes a law. It's Schoolhouse
Oh,
Rock.
I've seen that. I saw it. I
I'm
saw it.
Just a
study
bell
hall last
sitting
year.
on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, we'll watch it again this year. I forgot. We haven't watched it officially in this class. But yeah, so a bill becomes a law whenever it passes both houses of Congress and the president signs it into law. So Abraham Lincoln said, no, I don't want to do this. But Abraham Lincoln was very, very smart in the idea of he didn't just veto it outright. Because what could Congress do if Abraham Lincoln just vetoed it outright?
They can deny his vote.
Impeach him.
They probably wouldn't do that because Abraham Lincoln was a very powerful president and lots of people liked him. So they probably could have gotten rid of him. Oh goodness, no. Two-thirds majority vote. They can they can override. They can actually override his veto by a 2/3 majority vote. So Abraham Lincoln decided, well, I don't want to veto it because they'll just override me, and I don't want to sign it into law. So I'm gonna just wait. We call this a pocket veto. Make a note for this. Make a note for this is the president. He can just not do anything with it, and if he doesn't sign it, it goes basically null and void. So he just waited out Congress until Congress adjourned or went out of session, and Abraham Lincoln just went, just gonna ignore it. Just gonna not sign it. You guys can't do anything about it because you can't override my veto because I haven't vetoed it yet. So I'm just gonna wait until y'all leave, and then I'll just let, what?
Is that the first time that happened?
I believe this is one of the first times it happened. I don't know if any president has tried it before this, but it's called pocket veto. Whenever the president basically just sticks it in his pocket and ignores it, and doesn't actually stick it in his pocket. But it's the idea of, I'm gonna stick it off to the side, and just pretend it's not there anymore. And I'm just gonna wait
What if
until
there's
you
a
guys are
theory
awake.
that Congress made a hit on the president?
Typically, no. It's, okay, because I've read books. I read about it just to see, like, what actually happened for it. It was purely a Confederate, like, he was a Confederate supporter. He was just crazy. Like, no one wanted him to do that. The South didn't want him to do that. He didn't contact any type of, like, actual Southern leadership. He just decided, I'm going to do this.
In the South.
What?
He wanted to reelect in the South.
Yeah, he
I
knows
wonder-
that the South would leave and pull out again, but the South was absolutely horrified because they go,
I
what?
wanna know.
Wait, you can't, I can put two people at once. Okay, you've been waiting.
I wanna know, cause it's on that video, I wanna know who saw him and didn't say anything.
Well, keep in mind, he was an actor, like a real actor at the
I know,
theater.
but the actor walked into the presidential box looking like a demon.
But keep in mind, no one had assassinated the president up to this point. Like, that wasn't even like a thought people thought about it. And you know, it's Abraham Lincoln. Like, he's our leader during
No,
this
it's
time
a guy
period.
walked up to the presidential
They're like, oh, it's just an actor going around. Okay.
Yeah, but you know,
Alright,
like,
it's a guy. Okay, like, Chris' turn. Alright, Chris.
Are we done with this one? Brandon?
Not you.
Are you still doing this one?
Okay, a little bit.
Yeah, she's keeping us after if you're not going Spanish.
Alright, did you have a homework?
I'm fine with that.
Alright, so just make a note for the way you do it in the pocket video. Make a note for both of them for it. Alright, unfortunately, Lincoln died, and so because of this, Johnson becomes president, and Congress doesn't nearly respect Johnson as much as they respect Abraham Lincoln. Alright, now we'll stop for it. Alright, don't have any homework. You don't have any homework for it. You can't work on other stuff. If you work on other stuff during my class, I'm taking it.
Hey, work on this stuff.
Okay, just making sure. Move it away.
What one?
Put it away.
This is my planner.
Okay, you don't have any homework though.
Alright, I didn't know we didn't have any homework. I put my planner out so I could get the homework.
Suspect.